Hello, welcome to my Pre-Algebra review series. This video covers Chapter 6, Section 8, titled Percent of Change. We will start this review with a look at an investigation exploring percent of change. By the end of this, you will have reviewed the procedures for finding percent of increase and decrease, and ending this review, we'll have looked at a real-world problem. Please leave a like if you find this video to be helpful. Give your classmates a heads up too. It will more than likely help them. It'll certainly help this channel to be seen by more students. If you like me to cover any of these topics in greater detail, please leave a comment here in the comment section below. I read them and do my best to address each as time permits. Please subscribe to my channel and ring the bell icon to be notified every time I release a new video. Thank you. So let's get into it. So let's start off with a definition. What is percent of change? The percent a quantity increases or decreases from its original amount is the percent of change. And we'll see that shortly here. Okay, objective 1, find percent of increase. This is an investigation. So find the change in population. First of all, we're going to find the change in population from 1980 to 1990 for each state. The two states, California and Nevada. And the way you do that is you subtract the most recent numbers, or you subtract the oldest numbers from the most recent numbers. And in our case, for California, it's going to be, 29,786,000 minus 23,668,000. And that equals, when you get done, that equals 6,118,000 people. Population change. It's an increase. For Nevada, we ended with 1,202,000, 1,202,000, and we subtract 800,000. That was the starting quantity, and we end up with 402,000 people. So California increased by 118,000, and Nevada increased by 402,000 people. Which state had the greater change? Well, obviously California, right? California. California. Write the ratio, change in population over the original starting population for each state. So what does that equal to? Well, that equals to the change in population was, for California, was 6,118,000 over the starting, which was 23 million. What was it? I'm looking back for it here. 23,668,000. So that's that value. And that value is what? As a percentage, and write it as a percent. And as a percent, what does that come out to be? It comes out to be 25.8%. Now let's look at Nevada. Nevada, its change was 402,000. And we're going to divide that by 800,000. That was their starting population in 1980. And that equals the number, whatever that number equals. If we write it out, it doesn't really matter here. The percentage is 50.3%. So the last question here in our investigation is, which of the two percents, compare the 2%, which state had the greater population change as a percent? Well, it appears here that Nevada's percent change was twice as big. California had a 25% increase. Nevada had a 50% increase. So Nevada, Nevada. Okay? Example 1, find the percent of increase. So it's basically what we just did only much easier than that big investigation we had. So it says find the percent increase. So what did we do? We took the ending amount and subtracted the starting amount, right? So we're looking for the increase. So in our case here, we had 7.5, and we're going to subtract 4. And when we do that, we have 3.5, right? 3.5 is the increase. So the percent change, percent of increase, is 3.5 divided by where we started at 4. Here's where we started, here's where we ended. So we take where we ended and subtract where we started, and we get a change. It ends up being positive. It could be a negative number, which would mean it reduced, but it didn't. So this equals 3.5 over 4. And what is 3.5 divided by 4? Well, if you do it, you could say 3.5 divided by 4. And I'm not going to do the math longhand, but it ends up being 0.875. And that ends up being a percent. You move the decimal point 2 places to the right, and it ends up being 87.5%. There's our solution right here. Okay, example 1. Check your understanding. You know what to do. Find each percent of increase. From 100 to 114, what is the percent increase? Well, we already said you take the ending value, 114, and you subtract 100. That's where we started, and you end up with 14. That's the change. And the percent change is equal to the amount of change, the 14, over the starting amount, which was 100, and you end up with 0.14. Okay? We move the decimal places two places to the left. Okay? And then we can convert that to a percent by saying that is equal to 14%. Okay? Is the increase, a 14% increase. How about B? From 2 to 3.2. Okay, so the ending point is 3.2, and we're going to subtract the starting point from it, 2.0, and we end up with 1.2 is the difference. And we take the 1.2 and end up dividing that by the starting amount, so it's 1.2 divided by 2.0, and that equals what? That equals 0.60. And then if we take that to a percentage, 0.60 is equal to 60%. Okay, 60%. The last one here, big numbers, no big difference. From 4,000 to 8,500. 8,500 minus 4,000 is equal to 4,500. Now we take and divide the ending amount, 4,000, or the change, 4,500, and we divide that by the starting amount, 4,000, and that ends up equaling, I'm just going to write it out, 112.5%. Okay, when you do that number, when you do that division, it would end up being 1.125 would be the number that 4,500 divided by 4,000, and then that converts into 112.5%. And there's your answer for those. Example 2, real-world problem solving. The annual production of municipal solid waste in the United States has more than doubled since 1960. Find the percent of increase from 1960 to 1990. Okay, so as we look at here, we're going to look for, on this little chart, we're going to look where 1960 happens to be the first barrel of waste there, and it's 88 million. So I'm just going to write that down. So 88 million, okay? I'm going to write. And in 1990, so this is in 1960, And in 1990, it was 205 million, okay, tons. So now they want to know, what's the increase? It says that it more than doubled. What's the increase? Well, what do? We take what it is today, or where we're measuring to the point. Today would be in 2024, but to 1990 in our problem, that's the today of our problem. We're going to say 205 minus what it was in 1960, 88. And when you do that, you're going to get 7, right? And we're going to borrow the 1. 9, we're going to 1. And then we're going to borrow 1 again. So it's going to be 117 is going to be the number. So that's the difference. So now we do some division. We're going to say 117 divided by 88, the starting amount. And that's going to give us a percentage. And if we run it through our calculators, we're going to find out that number comes out to be 1.329, okay? And then if we convert this to a percentage, that percentage, 1.329, you're going to take the decimal place and you're going to move it over 2 places to the right. It's going to end up being 132.9%. 133. Let's round that up to an even percent. And that, or it would be 133% if we round it up. Okay? Example 2, check your understanding. Directions: find the percent of increase in solid waste production from 1970 to 1980. Round to the nearest percent. Okay, this is your turn. Go for it. I'll wait. Okay, are you done? I'm assuming we're all finished as far as we're going to go. So let's go ahead and try it out. So the first thing we have to know is where we can say, where do we start? What is 1970 value? The 1970 value, well, look in our chart. Over here, 1970 right here is 121 million tons of solid waste. In 1980, I'll just write it down so we can keep track of it. 1980, you don't have to do this. It was 205 million tons. So how do we find this change we're looking for? Percent increase. We're going to do it by taking today's date, and the today's amount is the one we're looking for, which is 1990. 1980 is the today's date from this problem. So we're going to say 205, and we're going to subtract 121 from it. That's where we started, and that was in 1970, 121. So 105 minus 121, so 5 is 4. So we had to borrow 1 here. We're going to have a 10. We're going to, right? So we're going to have an 8, and we borrowed a 1, so that's the answer, 84 at this point, okay? That's our change. So our change, so what is the percent change? The percent change is the change, 84, divided by the starting value, which was 121. And if we take it and we look at that number, look at it, it's going to end up being, well, let me get a calculator out. So according to my calculator, which I apologized before, I don't have a way to show it on the screen. I will shortly, as we move forward with these, I'll be changing the way we develop the films, the videos. So if you take 84 and divide by 121, you get the answer there is 0.6994. Okay? Oh no, excuse me. 69, I even read my calculator wrong. 69.42. No, 6942. Okay, so now to convert that to a percent, we move the decimal place 2 times to the right, and the answer ends up being 69.42%. But they want us to round it to the nearest percent, so that's going to be equal to 69%. So the increase from 1970 to 1980 is a 69% increase in solid waste. Objective 2, finding the percent of decrease. So now we're going to be looking at things that have gone down from the past to later years like today. You can also find the percent of decrease. So they're just telling us we've been doing a lot of increase problems, so they're just reminding us we can also do we can do decrease problems. So let's look at some. Okay, example 3, finding the percent of decrease. It says find the percent decrease from 1500 to 1416. Well, they want the number. They're not looking about a negative or a positive in this problem. We just want to know the value of the amount of increase. Okay, and that's going to be, we're going to take 1500 and we're going to subtract from it 1416. And when we get done with that, the number is going to come out to be 84. 84. So now if we take 84 and divide it by the starting number, the starting number in this case is 1500. Okay, where did my pencil go? 1500. And that's going to give us a value of 0.056. 0.056. And if we move now the decimal point 2 places to the right, we're going to end up with 5.6%. And they don't say to round it, so that's our answer, 5.6%. I'll put it down here, 5.6. Okay, example 3, check your understanding. This is your turn. Directions, find each percent of decrease. Where necessary, round to the nearest tenth of a percent. So I'm going to wait for you to go do it. When you get back, we'll continue on. Go ahead and pause. Okay, I'm going to assume that you've taken care of that, and we're going to move on and try to do some of these. Let's see what happens. So like we did the other one, we're going to start off by saying 9.6 minus 4.8 is what? So carry a 1 over here, we're going to have a 16, we're going to have an 8, right? And then we're going to have borrowed 1, so we're going to have an 8 left over here, and it's going to be a 4. So we're talking about 4.8 is our value. Okay, so now you take this is our percent decrease. Okay, and it's started with the 9.6 is where we started from, 9.6. So we're going to say 4.8 divided by 9.6. And when you do that, I think we're going to see that it's going to get 0.50. Because 0.48 is half of 0.96. Kind of makes sense. And that equals moving the decimal point 2 places to the right. It's going to give us 50%. Okay? That's 50%. So now let's try this one. So this one says we're starting from 202 and we're ending at 192. So we're going to take 202 and we're going to subtract 192 from that, and we're going to end up with what, 10? 10 is our difference, our decrease. So we're going to say 10 divided by 202, which is where we started, which is our from point here. And when we do that, we're going to have 10 divided by 202. We're going to end up with 0.05. Okay? And when we move our decimal point 2 places to the right, our percentage is going to be 5.0%. Okay? And then we're going to be over here from 854.5 to 60.6. This is going to be a little bit different. 854.5 minus 60.6. And according to my calculator, that is equal to 73, so I don't have to do the math, 793.9. So now we're going to take 793.9, and we're going to divide that by 854.5. And let's see what the calculator says. And that equals, looking at the calculator, it comes out to 0.9299, let's just say 1 rounded. And in order to get the percentage, we're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the right, and that'll give us 92.91%. And they say round to the nearest tenth right here. So rounding to the nearest tenth is going to give us, I'm just going to go right here, is equal to 92.9%. There's the answers. I hope you did well on this.